Hello and welcome to Channel's Book Club. I am Olakunle Kasumo. People often ask for our views on how to organize book events. A regular concern is how to have a book event that won't bore people to sleep. Well, there are different creative ways you can organize a book event to make them interesting enough for your guests. It all depends on the primary age category of most of those you are expecting, the type of book in focus, and expectedly, your own personality. Today, we want to show you a book event with some creativity. More importantly, we want to get you to meet the young lady behind it. She's also a medical doctor, literary activist, and writer. Her name is Towunmi, and her event was primarily a book signing one for her novel titled Promise of the Future. It just might give you some ideas. Enjoy this.
It's not your regular book signing event or the venue for such. This one is in a cafe space with few friends and readers who simply want to have a good time. It's designed to mix interactions, games, and a few of the usuals you will find at a book signing event. The author reads from her book to some of her guests.
Madam was back, so was Oga. The problem was, this time, Oga stayed longer than usual. Is Oga now based in Lagos? Celestina asked Ngozi. Mbanu. If Oga wasn't based in Lagos, why then was he spending so much time at home this time around? She had never known Oga to be on leave. He only came home for some breaks to be with the family during festive periods. Sometimes, when the children were on holidays, and occasionally to visit the village, but he never stayed so long at home. Later on, she overheard Emeka's conversation with his siblings that their parents were trying to settle an issue. He was sure his father would return as soon as it was settled. Settling an issue, Celestina wondered what type of issue was taking so long. Could it have been Madam's visit to our town with the children? But Oga was informed. Madam had said so, and he made no mention of being unaware when he came home. In fact, he looked pleased. Had that not been his reason for coming to spend some time with her? Of late, Madam's behavior was worrisome. Her demeanor portrayed suspicion, and she was unnecessarily aggressive. Well, just a bit more than usual. She eyed Celestina, nagged her, and slapped her for little things like sitting in the kitchen. Madam could just burst into the kitchen shouting and asking why she was sitting, and begin to beat her. The first time it happened, Celestina had expected Madam to give her something to do, or thought perhaps she had given her a task she hadn't performed satisfactorily, but there was no mention of such. After Celestina managed to mutter sorry ma amidst the beating, Madam just uttered, "Useless girl, get away from my kitchen." Celestina did not leave as Madam had ordered. She wondered where Madam expected her to stay. She had told her in her early days not to stay in the sitting room or the dining room, that her place was in the kitchen. Now, years after, she was telling her to leave the kitchen. As soon as Madam left, Celestina returned to her sitting position, and when Madam came out again and saw her, she said nothing. Such occurrence had happened more than once, although not under the same circumstance. Even the children had noticed Madam's different behavior. She and Oga were always shouting, screaming, and throwing accusations. When the children were talking, she had overheard Emeka say it had begun when Madam was sick and went to the hospital. Celestina heaved a sigh of relief. So she was not the cause of Madam's behavior. It was just a transfer of aggression, and she had not even known that Madam was sick. She hoped it was not the sickness that had to do with the brain, because sick persons were supposed to be resting, not causing so much trouble. Celestina shook her head in pity. Perhaps that was the reason Madam behaved that way. Oga should take it easy with her. If it was not so temperamental of late, she could have suggested they took Madam to Aro Hospital or Yabalet. She just prayed it was not hereditary because of the children, especially Ngozi. She could not imagine Ngozi behaving that way. She would have to include them in her prayers.
And they maximized the opportunity of asking her a few questions.
When you were writing the book, what population did you have in mind for the title? Was it hope for everyone or hope for just a group of people?
Yes, I did. Hope for everyone, but there was this particular population in mind, women who are infected with HIV. It was to make them aware of the possibility of getting married, having a life, a future. without thinking about the disease. It was making them aware of the fact that even when infected with HIV, they can still get married, have children, without infecting their spouse and unborn children. So they were the particular sect I was giving hope to and talking about the future.
So at what point did you come about the title? Was it when you started writing or when you finished writing the book?
Okay, well, I chose this title because of the plot of the story, the storyline, the main character, prospective future for her basically. And I chose the title basically to give hope in my first year of clinical school. My first posting was obstetrics and gynecology, and I noticed my first day in clinic there were a lot of HIV positive women that were coming to the clinic, and most of them got infected the year they got married. So that kind of struck me, and I wanted to know if it was possible for them to still have hope, because it was obstetrics and gynecology and they are mainly pregnant women. I worried about their unborn children, what fate they would have. So I got to know about the fact that they can actually give birth to children without infecting their spouse. And for those who are infected and have spouses who are not infected, it's possible for them to meet without actually infecting their spouse once they use their drugs effectively and their viral load is low. Yeah. But when I started working, I realized the trend of things have actually changed. Now, women are being infected and their husbands are not being infected. They carry the virus, but it's not manifesting. So I was curious about that, and I did a research, and I found out that some of these men have a particular receptor, which is protective against the virus being manifested.
So are we going to find out all those things you just said in the book?
You just find out part. The other one is just a new finding.
So it will reflect?
No. Except I remodify. Sequel to this. There's no sequel. No, there's no sequel. In future.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for the younger ones aspiring to write a book like this?
Okay, well, the advice I have for them is whatever they want to do, they should begin. They shouldn't procrastinate. They should take those steps. Even though those steps might not yield big results, eventually they will find their path and be able to remodify it into suiting the exact picture they are looking forward to. But they should take whatever step it is they want to take without procrastinating.